Hello and welcome. I am Laura Cragen, an intuitive eating and latter-day life coach. This podcast is for women who want to ditch diets, find body acceptance, and discover food freedom. As a fellow woman who wanted to lose weight for years, I know how it felt to be trapped by diet culture and at war with my body. Through my own hard work and struggles, I finally found a solution that helped me break free. The plan to get there: intuitive eating coupled with life-changing lessons of mindset overhaul and the gospel of Christ. I promise that as you follow these things I teach you here in this podcast, you will find happiness, peace, and most of all, freedom from the war with your body. So let's jump in. But I wanted to come on here and share, even on this live, that there's going to be some cool things for me today. Is just talking about my year anniversary of my recovery with my eating disorder and just reminiscing over this whole past year of what I went through. And I feel very blessed to have this opportunity to reminisce and to share with you the things that I found as I was going through my journals, and even finding this letter that I wrote to my own eating disorder. And they told us to do that at our recovery program, to write a letter to our eating disorder of what it's done to us and what it's made us miss out on and how we're going to let it go. And so I wanted to share that with you today, but it's just really important, I feel like, to look backwards. So I wanted to jump into that today, and let me tell you a little bit about the story of last year. For me, 1 year ago, I was, first of all, I had a ton of acne at that point. I was really struggling. I feel like probably my skin was showing that all through that whole past year of me going through a hard time with my severe depression. I went to a month-long recovery program for my depression and my suicidal thoughts. But then I came out within the 6 months afterwards with my acne. So there was that going on, and 6 months later, I realized I had eating disorder, so I still needed to get help, and that was some grief and loss I had to go through of realizing I still had more to deal with. Hey, Aubrey. And I just really wanted to move forward, but I knew it wasn't time yet. I guess God had other plans for me. But let me tell you a little bit about the program. I went to the Center for Change in Orem, Utah, and it was a wonderful program, and I had to go there 3 days a week, 3 hours each of those days, and we did about 2 hours of processing group where we learned from the therapist, and then we also discussed as a group what we're going through. And this is all kinds of women. These were women in their 40s, women that were in their 20s, there were teenagers there was me in my 30s being there, and it was just all of us being able to figure it out together. And then our last hour together, we had to eat a dinner, and we had to be weighed, and when we weren't, they didn't let us look, of course, but they wanted to keep us on track, and they had us eat, and they took all the specs on that of what we've eaten. So for me at that point, it wasn't necessarily an anorexic problem. It was a binge eating problem or orthorexic problem if I didn't want to eat the things that weren't clean enough in my mind, because I had suffered from orthorexia, which is religious clean eating. It's an actual disorder that has been deemed about 20 years ago, and it started happening with all this craze of people wanting to eat clean. So it's pretty much OCD for clean eating, and I really struggled with that, and it became to a point where it was just debilitating for my life. So I wanted to share that with you guys here today, a little bit about what it's been like and that whole change I've gone through. And a lot of change happened during that time. Even my marriage was really struggling during that time, because we used to diet together, we used to work out together, and now I was really fighting it back against all his ideals, and he being a personal trainer also on the side for a side job that he had, and him being very into working out. We clashed a lot because I was going into intuitive eating, and I was really trying to figure that out and what it was, who I was as this new person in our relationship. And also another thing of having to change my whole business. I had been a weight loss coach for a couple years at that point, but knowing no more could I do that. So I had to move forward, and I did. I learned to I learned that this isn't going to work, and I learned about intuitive eating, and I read the book about 4 years prior, because I've always been a fan of, weight, all kinds of things, weight loss related, health related, all those things. So I'm always looking for those ideas, and I stumbled across intuitive eating about 4 or 5 years ago, and I read the book, and I thought it was amazing. I tried it for a couple weeks. I just let it go. I couldn't do it. I was still in the tsunami of diet culture. I still thought it was very important to keep up with beauty ideals and standards and being thin and all those things. And I hadn't honestly gotten low enough. Sometimes it just takes to a point where you have to get low enough where you really decide, like, this is the way that's going to help me, and there's really going to be no other way to do that. And intuitive eating doesn't have to be where you get to that lowest point. But it definitely could help you if you start before that. And also Christ, he being the Savior for me, knowing that as hard as it is to think that we let ourselves get that hard before we turn to him, that's what it was for me still too. That he's the only one that can fill my heart, even though I want to fill that hole in my heart with shopping or eating all the clean foods, scrolling on Instagram, all those things. I keep filling it into that hole in my heart that goes into a deep abyss, into nothing. It just is never ending. It never satisfies. But then when Christ comes in the picture, he heals that hole in my heart. And I was going through all this a year ago, and I stopped my program 1 year ago. So I'm on my 1 year anniversary of recovery, and it's been really powerful to think back on that, and there's a lot of power in remembering back. So with how far I've come, I've been very grateful and touched that God has led me this way, and I hope that to just be able to share my story to inspire you guys to see where God has led you and how far you have come. But yeah, I wanted to share with you though here my eating disorder letter I wrote. And this is something that they gave us time to write during our process groups we had, of what our eating disorders did for us and made us miss out on, and just kind of like a I'm better than you kind of letter in a good way, because it's eating disorder. We don't want it. And for me, it was the orthorexia, the binge eating too, and starts with every eating disorder. It starts with body dysmorphia. So let me start into this here. I said, "Dear ED," which is eating disorder, "I deserve better. Having a taste of what it's like without you has been wonderful. I like this other side, and I want to stay here. Without you, I feel free. You were a trap, and you told me your attractive lies, and I believed you, but now I know better. I don't need to waste my time tracking each calorie. I don't have to look a certain way. I don't have to go to the workout class that gives me the biggest workout, all the things. I can just be me and have my mind back. Without you, I feel safe. I feel safe to be me and not have to morph into a smaller version. I don't have anxiety about every move I make with my body. I am taking care of that little girl inside me and was abused and broken, always being told she was not enough. But now she is with me and safe and giving her the love and safety she deserves. I have learned in my recovery that I have my own power to face my problems. You were only a buffer. You made the promises that I would finally be loved and accepted if I kept up with food plans and strict exercise, but now I use my own ideas. I use my clear mind to deal with my feeling of not being enough head on. I'm looking into my past, dealing with traumas, rewriting my mental script, and using mental tools that validate who I am." So that's the letter. And I tucked it away, and I only referred to it a few times after, but it was really cool to revisit that letter that I wrote to my eating disorder. And I'm really glad that you made me do that. But I want to leave with you guys here before I'm done here, just 3 things that really were my takeaways that I think will be powerful. These are eternal truths, honestly. So these will work for you as well. From looking back on a year ago of how far I've come with my anniversary of my eating disorder, for those of you who are just jumping on. So number 1, I have everything I need within myself and within Christ and God. That's a powerful statement. If everyone in the world could truly believe that, how much different this world would be. Having everything we need within ourselves. Number 2, the hard has been swallowed up in the joy of Christ. And I was talking about this a little bit yesterday on my stories, that these hard things we go through are beauty from ashes. That scripture in Isaiah 61:3, that are the ashes and the hard times of our lives can become beautiful. Beauty rises out of those ashes. And to remember that eternal principle would be really powerful for you. And number 3, God has been there for me in the past and will help me through the future. Because honestly, it still is not done. Things are still hard sometimes, and still trying to navigate the newness of life with new stages. And my new business going forward, after I've been doing this intuitive eating for a year, after switching from weight loss coaching, he's been there in the past and he can do it again. So for you, I'm sure you can see that there have been times in the past, and I was prompted this week to rereading my journal in the past. I don't do that very often, but I was prompted strongly, and if I didn't heed that prompting, I wouldn't have had this realization of these amazing things. So for you, whatever you need to do to remember your past helps you go forward. If you're trying to get forward on some things, remember your past in some way, shape, or form. So those are the takeaways I've had this week, and just kind of commemorating my 1-year recovery of my eating disorder, and just wanted to share that with you guys. But one thing I want to leave with you as a challenge, as I was reading my journal, there was a really powerful moment when I was going through a really hard day in particular, and and some of my own words being, I feel vulnerable and I doubt myself. I'm trying to be strong, but I feel lacking. I'm feeling overweight and not beautiful. I feel like a fraud because I want to teach and help women in this way, but I still struggle. Yes, I want to be able to relate with them, but I was still having a hard time. And even aside from business, just it's hard to be going through life that way. But being able to tell myself, as I was listening to a meditation, that I am listening. This idea that this affirmation you can tell yourself and sit in your own space and say, I am listening. I think that's powerful to give yourself that space, because we're always looking for someone to listen. I mean, I'm so grateful for all you listening here, but if none of you came, it'd be fine, because I know I can still listen to myself. And then secondly, God can listen. He can also listen to you. So to sit in your own space, ask and say, I am listening to yourself, what needs to come up and arise out, or what God's trying to get out and tell you too. So powerful things, and I had to share, and thank you for coming, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take some of these things and do it for yourself. So I'll talk to you later. I'm going to be trying to do maybe the podcast as this is live as well, so kind of double dipping here, and I'm going to be putting this audio onto my podcast, and I have a podcast called the Latter Day Intuitive Eating Podcast, so go and join me there. And also, if you need more tips on intuitive eating, I have a intuitive eating beginner's guide, and you can get that at latterdayintuitiveeating.com/beginner's guide. So if you want to get that, or there's the link in my bio. But I'd love for you to start, because it would be really helpful for you, as it was for me. Just learning the mechanics of intuitive eating is a little hard on your own if you don't know where to start and where to go. And there's a lot of information out there, but this can be really helpful for you and being a little easier. So go grab that and join me, hopefully maybe in 2 weeks when I do this. Next week I'm going to be having a guest interview. So you'll see that on the podcast. Probably not on here, but on the podcast. But have a great rest of the day, and thanks for listening. Thank you for listening, and I hope today's show filled your soul and gave you the direction you were searching for in your health, life, and relationship with God. I would love to stay connected. Subscribe to my podcast so that you can be the first to know when new episodes go live. And it would mean so much to me if you would rate and review this podcast just down below. Your words inspire me and give me that boost to create more inspiring content to share. I would love to meet you on social media. Find me on Instagram and Facebook. Also, if this show really inspired you today, take a screenshot to share it on social media and tag me or click the share button to give it to someone else that would also benefit from these spirit-filled discussions. Let us all spread the good word of the gospel of Christ and help others in any way we can. Thank you again for listening today, and I look forward to connecting with you.